basically be crushed in place and then filled in accordance with DEP and Department of Health standards once it's hooked up. So they will hook it up. Once they've made that hookup, then they will come back in and abandon and crush it and fill it and document it.
So existing, whatever's in there will be pumped out?
Correct, yes, yes.
And
yes.
that cost is on who?
That is a part of this project cost. So that all of that work, and if you've got the certified, I don't know if the bid tab is part of that, but that is we have a price from the contractor to perform that work. And that is a part of this total cost, the 5.4 million.
And what's your time limit?
We are up against the deadline from the funding agencies because we've got a grant agreement in place, which is why we wanted to get this awarded tonight, because we asked for an extension to be able to award it no later than April 15th. So that's why we had worked around it today, a few months ago, to make sure we could present it to the council today. We have until June 2026 to complete. Is that right?
I am not certain, but you're probably correct, because it's going to be a big project.
Yeah. The contractor will have 1 year from the date that we give them notice to proceed to complete the project. Now, if they're making really good progress and they're getting close, and it looks like they're not going to, they're going to be a little short, we certainly can work with them and talk with the funding agency to try to get an extension. But as of now, they will have 1 year from notice to proceed to complete the scope of work. And real quick before it finishes, they will, assuming we award it this evening, we will want to make sure that we get the amendment to fold in that 2.65 million, obviously, before we send the contracts to the city for execution. But in the meantime, assuming we do award it this evening, tomorrow we will get back in the office, send that notice of award to the contractor, and have them begin working on the contracts, getting their performance and payment bonds, so that we can have that ready to go for the city's signature, and then we can keep the project moving forward. But we don't want to have the city execute the construction contract with the contractor until we know we have that money in place.
Do you know how many residents are impacted that will have to be, this service have to be done to them?
There
For
is,
them?
let's see, we've got a total of, on the, on the service area 1, which is the base bid, which is Evelyn and Second for the most part, there are a total or potential total of 34 residences that would potentially hook up. Now, I don't believe everyone has signed up at this moment, but there are 34 residences or properties that we intend to at least run a sewer lateral to at the right of way, and then it's up to them to come to the city to, like we talked about in the past, sign up and get ready to commit to switching over to central sewer and off their septic. So there's 34 over there, and then on the other side, on Duval and 105th, there are potential of 32, and then there's a little bit more vacant properties over there. So we anticipate at most 20 in that area.
20, not 32.
There will be, I misspoke, there are 32 laterals that will go, but some of those are vacant properties. There are 20 properties that do have septic tanks in that area.
All right.
I do have a couple questions.
Sure.
So, as protocol is, we get these just basically right before these meetings start. So, I'm trying to understand. So, when these grants were applied for versus the awarding, what's that turnaround time usually for this one? Like we had to apply for the. You said that we applied for the grant and then we have a conditional approval, so to speak, or
Look, let me back up. The original grant, we had been working with probably 4 iterations of city staff ago, back in like 2017, 2016, putting these applications in. I believe in late 2020, early 2021, does that sound right? Is when Water Management District originally said, yes, we're going to fund it. So we said, great. We started working with George and some staff to move forward. And then they said, hold on, we're going to actually pull that money, reallocate it to another program. So I think it was last
So it's been some years. 3 or
It's
4
been a
years.
long time, and that, I believe the end of 2022 is when we had locked in that original 3.24 million.
I got you.
Last September, when I came to give you all a project update on it, we had said
So
we
back-
anticipate a shortfall.
When we applied, it was basically like a forecasted,
I mean, when we applied, we just kept rolling over the application in hopes that it would get
until it
funded.
was awarded.
Yeah, so it was, it was pretty conservative back in 2016, 2017 when we originally applied, but, from 2020 on, prices have just gone crazy.
Imagine that. You said that, I did.
Um,
So the other part where it says possible funding with city ARPA funds with city council approval, and then the shortfall fundable. I know you touched on the shortfall fundable with city council approval of the ARPA funds. Where it says possible funding, the 869,106.
I believe that's from Joanne's spreadsheet, and
Yeah.
I believe what she's saying is if we don't have, if for some reason that 2.65 million just disappears, then we would be.
Yeah, we don't have the paperwork yet, so, if we could only engage the contractor for the base bid, which would be Evelyn and Second area, then we would be 869,000 short. But we have received notice, and they have advertised us as being awarded the 2,650,000, and the documents are pending. We feel that they will have them soon. We don't recommend that we sign a contract, but notice of award for this contractor for both contingent on funding is fine, because it meets the deadline that water management wants and the state want to see us meet. But we won't be starting any real contract, till we
We won't-
receive those
we will- well,
documents.
we-
And
we
you'll
will-
have to approve them. You'll
So,
approve them.
well, I guess what I'm asking is, if we do propose, if we propose a motion to approve, does it need to be a conditional?
Yes.
And
Any
contingent
motion,
upon-
any motion, and you can look at the letter, and track the language if you want to. Any motion would be to approve, both projects contingent upon approval by the attorneys, one, et cetera, et cetera. That sentence to where it ends at certificates would be the contingency.
That's right.
And so that language would track what they are requesting. And if project 2 falls apart, we don't have, as I understand our conversation, we're not doing either project. It would come back to determine if we had the 800
That would be
plus
a
shortfall.
completely.
Council
It would be a
schedule.
conversation,
And
yeah.
To
And-
Mr. Attorney, just a procedural question. Is it standard practice to, I know this is the way that we've done it since I got here. I don't know if that's standard practice across the board, but like, we just get this information 5 minutes before a meeting starts.
That's not atypical.
It's not atypical.
Obviously, as much
Is it
time.
mandated somewhere somehow? Because, obviously with this one, I think everything's pretty straightforward, but sometimes it's a lot to digest and
Right.
you don't have any time to, let's get it here.
Well, and other cities are running into problems too, not in this particular area, but grants where they find, in Columbia County, you find out, there's a grant available and you got 4 days to.
And I understand
finish the
that as well.
application.
And we want
Those
that,
things.
yeah. Okay. I see both sides.
But I think this one, if I'm reading the tea leaves right, this one probably came to us in this form because that second funding
Yeah, for
phase
sure.
has been very fluid and it's just been locked in to the point.
Correct. The city,
Within
we
the last
received
8
notification, I think, late November, early December, that the 2.65 million was being awarded to the city, and I worked with Water Management District staff to give them kind of the proposed changes to that, just what that scope of work plan would look like, and it's probably been a month and a half, and I've talked to them several times since then, and they said, I think, too, because it's coming from DEP to Water Management District, and then from Water Management District to the city, there's just some lag in it getting processed there, and then coming, to the city. So, and all indications point to that money is, that money in that agreement is on its way. We just don't have it in place yet, which is why I'm recommending
Yeah,
approval contingent
I
on that,
understand that.
because I certainly would not want the city to move forward
No.
without having that secured. And I don't, and to Water Management District's credit, I don't believe that they would want you to move forward before they know that that's been put in place as well.
You have a question? We talked, I'm sorry.
One last thing, if I may. I'm sorry. So the last thing is just, I'm referencing Miss Joanne's spreadsheet, where it says less engineering services, and then it says commitment, and then there's a number out there of $725,000 in parentheses. Exactly what does that entail?
That is the total for our pre-construction design, bidding, and construction administration. That's the total of our fees for planning, design, and construction.
Mid-Tower will monitor every bit of this construction. And they engineered the plans for it. That was their fee, and you engaged their services for that amount. That's a commitment that we have already.
I'm in the wrong business.
What-
School business is not where it's at, I'll tell you that, holy moly.
I'd like to mention something for you, Matt, too. The, Mr. Campbell, the bid actually did not happen until last week. It finally came through. That's why it got pushed so hard to this deadline.
No,
Because
not
we were
all
waiting
about it, it just seems like, yeah, I mean, I understand.
We're waiting on the bid to happen, and we finally got the bid, the 2 bidders last week to come up with it. So it pushed it all the way to Friday, basically. I went to Water Management and DEP at the end of last week when I found out about the shortfall. They felt comfortable that they could help us, but they just, like he said, they haven't had enough time since last Friday to really do anything yet. But I have a good relationship with them. I feel like that they'll come through for us where we want to spend our own money.
Yeah.
And to your, further your point, in a perfect world, we would time it so that we could have a bid opening 2-3 weeks before the next council meeting, but because we are up against the agreement deadline with Water Management District, we got it in, set the bid opening.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be a stick to
So it
what,
was,
I'm
you
just
know,
wanting to understand the
and normally
process.
it will take a little bit longer too to turn it around, but because we had that bid opening last Tuesday, knowing we were aiming for tonight's meeting,
Tight deadline.
we did, we tried to turn everything around as quick as we could
Yes.
last week as well, and make phone calls and coordinate with
All right.
contractors.
One quick question, Okay, I was told, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, that we already had the money basically for Evelyn and Second to those. So is this continuous that if this don't come through, that it's going to delay process for Evelyn and Second?
Evelyn and Second are in the base bid. So if the second funding of $2,650,000 didn't happen, because we just don't have the papers, but it has been announced that we've been awarded it. I will tell you that, that was in the news. We would be $869,000 short. However, even at that, I mean, I really feel we're going to get the 2.6 because they have announced it. I just wouldn't want to not tell you. We don't have the paperwork. But that is, the base bid is Evelyn and Second. The alternate is 105th and Duval. One thing I do want to share is that because we don't know if additional funding is going to come from somewhere else, we do have the ARPA money. We have Lincoln, Taylor, Richardson, water rehabilitation, and a paving project that is it is actually out, advertised, and we'll be getting that bid results processed and to you probably next month. We also have a Ruby and Maine water rehabilitation. It is being designed. We haven't advertised that bid yet. Those have been earmarked by our budget with ARPA funds. We don't know how much it's going to cost, and we really do need to commit. We must have a commitment of spending all of those ARPA dollars by December of 2024, or we send back the difference. So I had put on here that the overage could be funded ARPA or infrastructure. We do have infrastructure funds that, can fund this type of work. The council has not budgeted, but I would hope that you would agree tonight that it could be a possibility if we needed it, and we would do budget transfers
Ms. Joanne,
with it.
I would definitely disagree with that because of the fact that we've been waiting on Lincoln, those streets. that
Oh,
you just said.
those are in
Those-
there.
Right, I'm saying, so you're saying that if we don't get this,
Wait.
what, 2 million, yeah, then you're gonna use the Apple, you're gonna use this?
Oh, not for the second phase,
Okay,
only to get the first phase.
but we have enough for
It's
the
my,
first.
phase.
I mean, but we're only talking 300,000 right now. We have $2,800,000 in ARPA funds. And the Ruby and Maine and the Lincoln Taylor, they were in the budget.
Right,
So, I mean, even though we don't know what the dollars will come out at, but I mean, they're in that. They're in it.
okay, this is long as.
I feel confident that we do have infrastructure funds, so,
So you're
you know, I
not,
think we can get these projects done.
okay, question. Was this money, we have enough money, so we don't rely on these residents in all these areas
Those
to pay
residents,
anything in?
those residents are having to pay their tap and impact fees. Our ordinances depict that everybody must pay those tap and impact fees.
Well, you gotta pay
And
the-
our loans with the state require that we charge everybody the same. So the grant will pay for the septic permit of abandonment. There's a fee for that with the state or the county. It will pay to actually run the line from our main to the house, and it will pay to have that tank abandoned properly. That's what the grant dollars will pay for the residents. I've sent out 2 mailings to the residents, and we have a permission form that they have to sign and
Ms.
have.
Joanne, I understand all that.
Mhm.
Question is, what was these folks sitting on, an island somewhere that they didn't get septic and all that? When the other part of the city got all this stuff, now they gotta come back and pay for some stuff?
I'm
Where
sorry,
were they
I
sitting?
I don't
Are
know
they on
when
island
the
by
original
themselves?
sewer lines were
Huh?
put down.
I mean, was the city in 2 different phases, 2 different parts? Were these residents, Second Street and all that, Evelyn and all that, they didn't get all this stuff, and now they're required to have all this?
There are
Out
some,
of 20
there are some
Joanne?
residences on
Yeah.
Evanston that don't have
I
sewer.
understand all that. I'm talking about some of these streets I know,
I don't know.
especially Second and all that. The streets that you're mentioning, were they sitting on an island where they got excluded from what everybody else got a chance to enjoy?
Sir, I don't believe that I worked for the city back when these lines were put in, because I sure don't remember it. So I'm thinking, like,
So
the lines are really, 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 really
So
old.
then why they
I
got-
wouldn't know.
So why did you have to pay this impact fee? Yeah. Because you wasn't working for the city way back then. I don't know, I think the city was 1800 and something. But they should have got the same thing that everybody else got.
The city did not have impact fees. They probably had tap fees, but I only know what we
Now
are
they're
required to
being
do
charged.
now.
Yeah, but now
And-
they're being charged. They was left out for some godforsaken reason why. Apparently it was on another island somewhere. Now they was left out, now they got to foot the bills.
Well, the city.
We don't have enough money.
Okay.
Do we have enough money, grant money, whatever kind of money that would absorb some of this cost? What does it cost each resident?
Well, the problem you have, Mr. Jefferson, is you have an ordinance in place that requires the impact and
Okay.
tap fees. So that
Yeah.
ordinance, as we sit here now, it controls that whenever the impact fee ordinance was enacted, from that point forward, that became the law as far as impact fees.
I tell you what, Mr. Attorney, you were born and raised here. You answered the question. Was these places, streets, are sitting out there on a corner by themselves? How did they got missed over, run over, forgotten about,
All I
and all that?
can say, Mr. Jefferson, is when they were required to hook up to the older lines, whatever the ordinances of the city were at the time, as far as any fees or cost to hook up, that's what they would have had to comply with.
Mhm. Now they got
I
higher
disagree
costs.
with that. No, I kind of disagree with that. Because what happens is, I know from our property, whatever we had, it was difficult for lots of people. People just didn't understand what was happening during the time. So you're talking about this area over in the This is District 2. It's one of the most neglected districts there were at the time. The street that he's talking about over in Evelyn and Second. And I'm very devastated because that's where the schools were before then. And this is a problem that is basically a whole family that lives over there. And it's a very, very difficult. It's really, people cannot afford the $1,500 per se. And that's one of the issues, and it's a rundown area. I mean, in the city has some problem with it too. And this is the problem, and this is some of the issues that they're having, is that now I have to pay $1,500. I can barely pay my bills. I don't have $1,500. And I know we said the payment plan. I had spoken to some people over there, went over there, talked to them about it, and they're like, well, first of all, we're not getting the service that people are getting in other places. So you're asking me now to continue to pay this money in order to hook up. I feel their pain because most of them they don't have the prominent jobs, and now we're putting another burden on them to pay this. So I asked a question earlier. Well, go down to the city and make a payment plan with this going. And they're like, some of them says, well, this is not my property, it belongs to someone else. So why should I pay the impact fee for whomever property it was? Well, if you want your sewage, then her can do it. It was my thing to them. And their thing was, well, most of them was working like maximum or whatever, so they weren't employed. It's really putting a burden on it, and I kind of agree with Jefferson. It should have been done. These people that lived over there 40, 45 years. And one of the ladies, she's like, when her septic tank, when it rains, like, her septic tank is, so I've been there trying to get her to go through and take that septic tank, hey, look, whatever it takes, whatever. She has some sales, so they're pumping it out. But the thing is that they can't, these are not people who can actually afford to come up with $1,500. They don't own the property. They're renters. They don't, so I'm caught between the rock and hard place.
That would be the responsibility, ultimately the responsibility of the property owner.
Do you think, we have property, do you think we're going to sit here and say, okay, we're going to give you $1,500 to do this? No. Well, you live here, you pay the water, you pay your utility bills. The bill, am I correct that it's going to go on the bill, this $1,500 is going to go on the utility bill?
No, the $1,500 won't go on the bill. What will go on the bill